Hey everyone, welcome back to another thrilling chapter breakdown of Beyond the Timescape. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into chapter 4, which honestly left me completely stunned. If you thought the previous chapters were intense, wait until you hear what happens when our young protagonist Qing encounters his first real test of survival in this brutal world. Before we jump into the madness of chapter 4, let me quickly recap where we left off in chapter 3. Our boy Qing finally reached Chi level 1, which is honestly a huge milestone considering where he started. Remember that mysterious violet crystal? Well, it's still hidden inside his body, and we're all waiting to see what kind of power it's going to unleash. The blood rain that had been terrorizing everyone finally stopped, thank goodness, and Qing had to deal with burning corpses everywhere. But here's the kicker. Chapter 3 ended on this massive cliffhanger with his first real enemy appearing. The tension was absolutely killing me. Now, chapter 4 opens with what I can only describe as pure chaos. Picture this scene. Qing is minding his own business when suddenly, through this massive door that's 70 to 80 feet wide, 7 figures emerge. These aren't your friendly neighborhood survivors. Oh no, these are scavengers. And in this world, that's basically the worst news you can get. They're all dressed in grey leather clothes, carrying bags and sacks filled with who knows what kind of loot. The weaponry alone tells you everything you need to know about their intentions. 3 of them have bows, 2 are carrying sabers, and then there's this old man who's clearly the leader, wielding fighting gauntlets like he's ready to punch through walls. But the one who really caught my attention was this absolute monster of a man they call Cruel Ox. This guy has a berry axe, a scarred face, a thick beard, and this evil grin that just screams trouble. You can tell immediately that this is someone who enjoys causing pain. These 7 form what they call a temporary team, but their only goal is looting everything they can get their hands on. See, when the blood rain stopped, the barriers around the forbidden region opened up, and that means it's basically a free-for-all loot fest for anyone brave or stupid enough to enter. Qing takes one look at this group and immediately understands what he's dealing with. These are South Phoenix villains, and they live by one simple rule: the weak become prey. It's that brutal. There's no mercy, no second chances, just pure survival of the fittest. And our young protagonist knows he's in serious danger. What happens next is absolutely insane. Qing starts running, which honestly seems like the smart move when you're facing 7 armed scavengers. But Cruel Ox isn't having any of it. This maniac starts chasing him, shouting something about how running brats always have good loot, and how everything Qing has is going to be his. The guy swings his massive axe with this whooshing sound that probably would have split Qing in half if it connected. But here's where things get really interesting. Qing doesn't just run and hide like you'd expect from someone his age. No, this kid has some serious skills. He dodges the axe attack, rolls to safety, and then launches a counterattack that's absolutely brutal. He goes straight for Cruel Ox's chin with an iron skewer, and blood just sprays everywhere. Then, while Cruel Ox is still reeling from that hit, Qing drives a dagger right into his right foot. I'm talking about the blade going through the leather shoe, through flesh and into the mud below. Cruel Ox lets out this shriek that probably echoed through the entire forbidden region. Qing quickly hides behind a wall, and you can see his eyes glowing like a wolf's in the darkness. Meanwhile, the archers in the group are taking aim, ready to turn him into a pincushion. The old man, who they call Sergeant Thunder, is just observing everything with this calculating look, like he's trying to figure out exactly what kind of person Qing really is. Just when it looks like Cruel Ox is about to charge again in a blind rage, Sergeant Thunder intervenes with this voice that carries absolute authority. He basically tells Cruel Ox to back off, calling Qing a slum survivor that even God has spared. There's something about the way he says it that makes Cruel Ox actually listen, though you can tell the killing intent is still there, burning in his eyes as he stares at Qing from about 30 feet away. Then, Sergeant Thunder does something completely unexpected. He asks Qing if he wants to come with them. Not in English, mind you, but in a way that shows he's not just making a casual invitation. Qing is shocked by this offer. He takes about 10 breaths to think it over, weighing his options, and then decides to join them. It's a calculated risk, but probably his best chance of survival in this hostile environment. What follows is this fascinating dynamic where Qing uses his knowledge of the city to guide the scavenger team to the best loot spots. He's smart about it too, avoiding the dangerous magistrate areas where they could all get killed. Cruel Ox, being the greedy monster that he is, takes way more loot than he can handle. The guy gets so weighed down that he's completely exhausted by evening. Qing, meanwhile, is playing it smart, staying light and mobile. When evening comes, they set up camp in the slums with 6 tents arranged in a defensive pattern. They use powder and incense around the perimeter to keep away mutant beasts and other horrible creatures that roam the night. Sergeant Thunder even gives Shu-King a sleeping bag, telling him he's safe there. But Shu-King keeps one eye open because he knows better than to trust anyone completely in this world. Here's where the story takes a really dark turn. At midnight, when the howling winds and the crying of various creatures fill the air, everyone else is fast asleep. But Shu-King is wide awake, and he's made a decision that shows just how ruthless he can be. He crawls silently towards Krulok's tent, thinking about the lesson he learned in the slums. Potential threats must be eliminated. He's learned that acting subservient is often just a trap, and he's not going to wait for Krulok to make the first move. The snoring from inside the tent is real, which means Krulok is genuinely asleep. Shu-King carefully cuts into the tent and slips inside. What happens next is absolutely chilling. He places his skewer right at Krulok's throat and drives it in so deep that the man's head is almost completely severed. Blood fountains everywhere, and Shu-King has to cover Krulok's mouth while pressing his foot against the man's throat. For 10 agonizing breaths, Krulok struggles, his eyes filled with despair, before finally going still. But Shu-King isn't done yet. This is where his planning really shows. He uses venom from a snake head to create green blisters on the corpse, which then dissolves the entire body into nothing but a blood puddle. He straightens out the tent and steals all of Krulok's items, making it look like the man simply disappeared. The cold wind blows through the camp as Shu-King calmly returns to his sleeping bag and goes to sleep like nothing happened. The next morning brings this eerie scene where Krulok's tent is completely gone with no clues left behind. The other scavengers just assume he got too greedy and left during the night, which honestly isn't that unusual in the line of work. They quickly forget about him and move on. But Sergeant Thunder gives Shu-King this deep, penetrating look and asks if he's still planning to stay with them. Shu-King doesn't answer directly, just follows along as the group of 6 scavengers plus 1 kid continues their journey. You can hear them chattering about God's tribulation and how the North City has completely vanished, while the wind seems to sob around them. What really gets me about this chapter is how it reveals Shu-King's true nature. This is a 7-year-old kid who just executed a perfect assassination, complete with body disposal and evidence cleanup. He's not just surviving in this harsh world, he is thriving by being more ruthless than anyone expects. The way he calmly planned and executed Krulok's death shows that he has the instincts of a born killer, despite his young age. The question that's burning in my mind is whether Sergeant Thunder knows what really happened. That deep look he gave Shu-King suggests he might suspect something, but he's not saying anything. Is he impressed? Concerned? Planning something himself? And what about that violet crystal still hidden in Shu-King's body? When is that going to come into play? This chapter really establishes Shu-King as someone who's going to be a major force in this world. He's not just another survivor trying to get by. He's someone who eliminates threats before they become a problem. The cold, calculated way he handled Krulok shows a level of strategic thinking that's honestly terrifying in someone so young. What did you think of Shu-King's first kill? Was it justified self-defense, or does it show that he's already too far gone down the dark path? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for chapter 5, where I have a feeling things are going to get even more intense. Will the team split up? Will Sergeant Thunder confront Shu-King about his suspicions? And what secrets is that violet crystal still hiding? Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next in this incredible story.